So, shortly after becoming a registered nurse, I booked a trip to Vietnam back in October as a way of giving myself time and space to heal after being brutally exhausted by nursing academia. It was a 1-month trip. I traveled with my dad, and going to Vietnam has always made me feel some type of way. And that feeling that I'm describing is strangely visceral. It's the one that is gut-wrenching, and it's challenging to my very own core identity as a Vietnamese American. So, shortly before moving back home to the Bay Area, I lived in Portland, Oregon for about 3 years, and within those 3 years, I spent my formative day as a student nurse and as a creative too as well. And I think some of you already know this, but Portland, Oregon is considerably one of the whitest cities in the States, which can make it very challenging for POCs on a day-to-day basis. And I think because of its racially homogenized neighborhood in Portland, the POC community is pretty small, but it's also very tightly knitted too as well. And it was within those communities where I met some of the most talented, supportive, and compassionate folks I've ever worked with, and it really helps me to thrive as a POC in school and outside of school too as well. I remember during my first few months of living in Portland, I was extremely homesick. I would commit myself to go to Vietnamese restaurants or other local establishment as a way of immersing myself in my own culture. Whether it's listening to melodic conversations between Viet families or smell of familiar comfort foods such as bún bò Huế, bánh mì, or Vietnamese coffee brewing in the air, or just being visually stimulated by the hustle and bustle of Vietnamese families in your local Asian market. You know, the connection to my culture was innately strong, regardless of whether I was living at the time. But as time passed, I was yearning to find a connection to my own cultural roots beyond the external, beyond just food and language. I wanted to find a way to deeply connect with that visceral feeling of being Viet, of being a refugee, of being a child from an immigrant parent. And that connection that I was striving for was internal. It was an internal feeling. And what better way to fulfill that void than through creation? Taking existing elements of one's own identity and then mold it into something that many people can connect through visual storytelling, through photographs. So I started changing the way I create as a photographer, being very mindful of who I photograph and the type of project that I was willing to invest my time and energy into. And it was around this time that I was very interested in learning more about the immigrant and refugee experiences. And so I collaborated on this project with my friend Andy called The Stories We Carry, where we really focus on second generations and beyond experience as an immigrant or refugee living here in the States, and what was that like for them. I was also interested to see if there was a way to bridge both the Vietnamese tradition with the Vietnamese contemporary and modernization through the power of Áo Dài, the Vietnamese silk dress called Silk Rise, and it was a project that Olivia and I developed to really understand our own Vietnamese American upbringing too as well. And it's a very interesting project, and it's still going as we speak. And so it was through all these accumulation of projects that allow me to not only just grow as a creative, but also as a nurse too as well, to better understand my community and the demographic that I was planning to work with in the near future. But not only that, it was an opportunity for me to cultivate my own voice, to cultivate my own creative, authentic expression, if you will. I think that search for authenticity requires a bit of discomfort, an experience in which I needed to be pushed and stretched to result in some type of growth. Like in Portland, how I was discomforted by being a minority in a homogenous space. it in return allowed me to evolve into something much more. And now more recently in Vietnam, I was discomforted of being Vietnamese American returning back to the motherland. Fear of potential criticisms as someone who is never fully Viet because of the way one looks or speaks. Half Viet, half American. Two separate entities separated by the ocean, constantly searching ways to unite the two. But as my stay progressed, I began to find comfort through the discomfort. And I think the catalyst to all this was through meeting many Viet Kieu creatives who also share similar sentiments regarding their experience in a growing diaspora community. Have you heard of third culture kids? A friend of mine in Vietnam once said. They are kids who are raised in a culture outside of their motherland. And in your case, it's Vietnam. She continued on by saying that instead of seeing my own Viet American experience as half of this or half of that, half Viet, half American, a duality if you will, but instead perceive my Viet Kieu experience as double of everything. An accumulation of two complete units merge into one. And because of our unique experiences, when one part of the identity is struggling for whatever reason, the other compensates for it. It fills in that missing gap momentarily. It's kind of like language. Now, I'm starting to slowly accept the fact that when I speak both Viet and English in a sentence, it shouldn't really be perceived as a failed attempt at me trying to be fluent in my mother's tongue. But rather, it's the ability to become fluid in both cultural identities. It's allowing the tongue to drift between two worlds. And so, as the day advanced in Vietnam, I continue to embrace the discomfort and learn to become fluid as a means of connecting with locals, code switching from Viet to English, and building proximity with others, and most importantly, building that proximity with myself. Some of the images you are looking is my way of connecting with other people through this concept of proximity. To be able to find beauty that requires attention to small details. To get as close as possible, even if it causes a bit of discomfort. But once that discomfort has dissipates, you can guarantee that comfort will radiate its way through your existence. Radiate its way through my existence.
How's it going, friends? So I just want to thank you for watching this video completely towards the end. I know it's a little bit longer than usual, but I had so much fun putting this video together, especially when Vietnam has been so fresh in my mind. The experience is still there, and I wanted to kind of keep that momentum up and share you my experience and my own struggle as a returning Vietnamese American. So hopefully it's something that you enjoy, and maybe I'll be focusing more topics on this idea of identity, right? But in the meantime, if there is a particular topic or things that you want to learn or watch about, leave your ideas in the comment box and I'll start brainstorming and create something. But in the meantime, please stay warm. It is getting cold in where I'm at. So bundle up, drink lots of fluid. If you're sick, if you felt like you've got a knot in your throat, start drinking some tea, some hot fluids with some honey, right? Get that immune system going, right? We want to see less of you in the hospital. We want to make sure that you're all warm and fuzzy and all that good stuff. So in the meantime, sending you lots of love, spread love, do a good thing. This is V, and take care of each other. Peace.